Okay, everybody. Welcome to the program tonight. We're so glad to have everybody here. And Jaya Krishna in Dominican Republic is driving his neighbor to the emergency room tonight. He's had some health crises, so he'll be joining us later. And he wants to read if he can make it in time. So this is a wonderful conclusion that we're going to be doing tonight of the story of Gajendra. And if you don't mind, I'm going to go ahead and start with pranams. Just chant along with me. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swamini Namane Namaste Saraswati Devim Gaurvani Pracharane Nirvishesha Shunyavati Paschat Shiva Sari Gaur Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Rama. So, third chapter, eighth canto, story of Gajendra. Gajendra goes back home, back to Godhead. It's a great story. So, just to remind you, you might remember that Gajendra was locked, his leg was in the jaws of the crocodile, and therefore he could not get out. And instead of going to the demigods or for anybody else, uh, he went directly to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And so in text 31 of the last chapter, just to catch you up, he says, after understanding the awkward condition of Gajendra, who had offered his prayers, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Hari, who lives everywhere, appeared with the demigods who were offering prayers to him. Carrying his disc and other weapons, he appeared there on the back of his carrier, Garuda, with great speed, according to his desire. Thus he appeared before Gajendra. Gajendra had been forcefully captured by the crocodile in the water and was feeling acute pain. But when he saw Narayana wielding his disc, was coming in the sky on the back of Garuda, he immediately took a lotus flower in his trunk, and with great difficulty, due to his painful condition, he uttered the following words: O my Lord Narayana, Master of the universe, O Supreme Personality of Godhead, I offer my respectful obeisances unto you. Thereafter, seeing Gajendra in such an aggrieved position, the unborn Supreme Personality of Godhead, Hari, immediately got down from the back of Garuda by his causeless mercy and pulled the king of the elephants, along with the crocodile, out of the water. Then, in the presence of all the demigods who were looking on, the Lord severed the crocodile's mouth from its body with his disc. In this way, he saved Gajendra, the king of the elephants. So that catches you up. And if you don't mind, I'll read just a few more verses. There's only 26 verses in this chapter. So I'll read about 5 or 6 and we'll pass it around. Sri Sukadev Goswami said, when the Lord delivered Gajendra, king of the elephants, all of the demigods, sages, and Gandharvas, headed by Brahma and Shiva, praised this activity of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and showered flowers upon both the Lord and Gajendra. There was a beating of kettle drums in the heavenly planets. The inhabitants of Gandharva Loka began to dance and sing, while the great sages and the inhabitants of Charnaloka and Siddhaloka offered prayers to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Purusottama. The best of the Gandharvas, King Huhu, having been cursed by Devala Muni, had become a crocodile. Now, having been delivered by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he assumed a very beautiful form as a Gandharva. Understanding by whose mercy this had happened, he immediately offered his respectful obeisances with his head and began chanting prayers just suitable for the Transcendental Lord, the Supreme Eternal, who is worshipped by the choicest verses. Who would like to pick it up there? That's text 5. Going once?
I can do some since
Okay.
no one came in.
Okay. Text 5.
Having been favored by the causeless mercy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and having regained his original form, King Huhu circumambulated the Lord and offered his obeisances. Then, in the presence of all the demigods, headed by Brahma, he returned to Gandharva Loka. He had been freed of all sinful reactions. Because Gajendra, king of the elephants, had been touched directly by the hands of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he was immediately freed of all material ignorance and bondage. Thus he received the salvation of Swarup Mukti, Swarupya Mukti, in which he achieved the same bodily features as the Lord, being dressed in yellow garments and possessing 4 hands. This Gajendra had formerly been a Vaishnav and the king of the country known as Pandya, which is in the province of Dravidha, South India. In his previous life, he was known as Indrajumna Maharaj. Indrajumna Maharaj retired from family life and went to the Malaya hills, where he had a small cottage for his ashram. He wore matted locks on his head and always engaged in austerities. Once, while observing a vow of silence, he was fully engaged in the worship of the Lord and absorbed the ecstasy of love of Godhead. While Indrajumna Maharaj was engaged in ecstatic meditation, worshipping the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the great sage Agastya Muni arrived there, surrounded by his disciples. When the Muni saw that Maharaj Indrajumna, who was sitting in a secluded place, remained silent and did not follow the etiquette of offering him a reception, he was very angry. So that's probably my 5.
Okay. Anybody else?
Yeah, I can read, Prabhu.
Please. Thank you.
Yeah. Text 11:12. Sukadev Goswami continued, My dear king, after Agastya Muni had thus cursed King Indradyumna, the Muni left that place along with his disciples. Since the king was a devotee, he accepted Agastya Muni's curse as welcome because it was the desire of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, although in his next life he got the body of an elephant because of devotional service, he remembered how to worship and offer prayers to the Lord.
Excuse me, I'm sorry. Sorry to interrupt. Did we skip number 10? Text 10?
Yes, Prabhuji, I think. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Go back and do 10 if you don't mind.
Yeah. I thought, she read 5. She said I read 5. Okay, no worries. Okay, text 10. Agastya Muni then spoke this curse against the king. This king, Indradyumna, is not at all gentle. Being low and uneducated, he has insulted a Brahmana. May he therefore enter the region of darkness and receive the dumb body of an elephant.
There you go.
Yeah. Do you want me to read 13 or 11 to 12 again, Prabhu?
Your choice.
Okay, I'll read 11 to 12 again. Sukadev Goswami continued, My dear king, after Agastya Muni had thus cursed King Indradyumna, the Muni left that place along with his disciples. Since the king was a devotee, he accepted Agastya Muni's curse as welcome because it was the desire of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, although in his next life he got the body of an elephant, because of devotional service, he remembered how to worship and offer prayers to the Lord. Text 13. Upon delivering the king of the elephants from the clutches of the crocodile and from material existence, which resembles a crocodile, the Lord awarded him the status of Sarupya Mukti in the presence of Gandharvas, the Siddhas, and the other demigods, who were praising the Lord for his wonderful transcendental activities. The Lord, sitting on the back of his carrier Garuda, returned to his all-wonderful abode and took Gajendra with him. Text 14. My dear King Parikshit, I have now described the wonderful power of Krishna, as displayed when the Lord delivered the king of the elephants. O best of the Kuru dynasty, those who hear this narration become fit to be promoted to the higher planetary systems. Simply because of hearing this narration, they gain a reputation as devotees. They are unaffected by the contamination of Kali Yuga, and they never see bad dreams.
Haribo.
Do you want me to read one more, or I don't know?
Read one more if you'd like.
Okay, sure. Text 15. Therefore, after getting up from bed in the morning, those who desire their own welfare, especially the Brahmanas, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, and in particular the Brahmana Vaishnavas, should chant this narration as it is, without deviation, to counteract the troubles of bad dreams.
Very nice. Who else would like to read? Thank you.
I can read 5.
Okay.
So we're on text 16?
Correct.
Okay. O best of the Kuru dynasty, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the super soul of everyone, being thus pleased, addressed Gajendra in the presence of everyone there. He spoke the following blessings. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, freed from all sinful reactions are those who rise from bed at the end of night, early in the morning, and fully concentrate their minds with great attention upon my form, your form, this lake, this mountain, the caves, the gardens, the cane plants, the bamboo plants, the celestial trees, the residential quarters of me, Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva, the 3 peaks of Trikuta mountain, made of gold, silver, and iron, my very pleasing abode, the ocean of milk, the white island Shvetadvipa, which is always brilliant with spiritual rays, my mark of Srivatsa, the Kaustubha gem, my Vaijayanti garland, my club Komodaki, my Sudarshan disc and Panchajanya conch shell, my bear Garuda, the king of the birds, my bed Sheshanaga, my expansion of energy, the goddess of fortune, Lord Brahma, Narada Muni, Lord Shiva, Prahlad, my incarnation like Matsya, Kurma, and Varaha, my unlimited all auspicious activities which yield piety to he who hears them, the sun, the moon, fire, the mantra Omkar, the absolute truth, the total material energy, the cows and brahmanas, devotional service, the wives of Soma and Kashyapa, who are all daughters of King Daksha, the rivers Ganges, Saraswati, Nanda, and Yamuna, Kalindi, the elephant Airavata, Dhruva Maharaj, the 7 rishis, and the pious human beings.
There's only
I
2.
think that was 5 verses.
Yeah, I know. There's only 2 more verses. If somebody really wants to, please read.
Okay. Anybody else?
You want to go ahead?
I can read.
Okay, please. Yes. Thank you.
My dear devotee, unto those who rise from bed at the end of night and offer me the prayers offered by you, I give an eternal residence in the spiritual world at the end of their lives. Sri Sukadeva Goswami continued, after giving this instruction, the Lord, who is known as Rishikesha, bugled with his Panchajanya conch shell, in this way pleasing all the demigods, headed by Lord Brahma. Then he mounted the back of his carrier Garuda. Hare Krishna.
Oh, wow. So I love that. That is so wonderful. And that's the end of that chapter. And so they went back home, back to Godhead. So how do you feel about that, everybody?
I have mixed feelings, Prabhu. I
Okay.
like to, yeah. You know, it's so amazing. You know, Indraduman Maharaj was an amazing devotee. He did so many things. You know, when we go to Jagannath Puri, we have, the Sarovar. You know, it's said that 33 million demigods are present in that, Sarovar. And I mean, so many amazing things he did for Lord Jagannath. But still he took birth. I mean, and here, I was thinking, Srila Prabhupada is so merciful. He's saying, you chant Hare Krishna Mahamantra sincerely only once, you will go back to Godhead. And then a devotee says, I can't chant. He says, you just hold my dhoti and I'll take you back to Godhead. And it's just so amazing, right? That one devotee has to take birth, and then here our Srila Prabhupada is saying, I'll take you back to Godhead. So much confidence.
Well, Kali Yuga is famous for getting back to Godhead really easy. You don't have to be really that great a devotee to go home at this point. You need the mercy of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. As a matter of fact, if you go to the Madhya Lila, it's in the 9th chapter, text 1. It says that when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu visited South India, when he did that, he considered that all the residents were actually within the jaws of the crocodile of the Buddhists, the Jains, and the Mayavadi philosophers. And so Kaviraj Goswami states that although these people were strong as elephants, they were almost in the clutches of death because they were attacked by crocodiles of various philosophies. However, just as Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in the form of Vishnu saved the elephant Gajendra from the clutches of a crocodile, so he saved all the people of South India from the clutches of these various rogue philosophies. So I thought that was a nice thing that we find in the Chaitanya Charitamrita mentioning the story of Gajendra. So I thought that was pretty nice. So so it's a lot easier for us to go back home, back to Godhead in this age of Kali. But in previous times, even if one little thing was out of place, everything was ruined. There's a story, a Kadasi story. You might remember it better than I do. I could look it up for you and we could read it. But one king in his whole kingdom, everything was perfect. He was doing everything perfectly, but nothing would work out right. The people were still not receiving necessary food grain, this, that, whatever it might have been. And it's the king's job to provide this. So he wondered, why is this happening? So he went and wandered in the forest with his entourage, and he finally came upon one great sage. And when he came upon the sage, he asked him, he said, what is wrong? I'm doing everything perfectly well according to the Shastric recommendations. All my advisors are telling me exactly what to do. I'm doing everything that I'm supposed to do, but yet my kingdom is not flourishing. Can you tell me what's the matter? And he said, yes, one Sudra is engaged in puja to the deity. And he's destroying that whole sacrifice because he's not qualified to be there. So he wanted to find out who that person was immediately and eject him from the kingdom so that he could fulfill all the rituals and rites of the Vedic text. So you'll see that these great sacrifices, they're dependent on accumulating items for sacrifice. So the earth has to produce the correct food grains, the cows have to produce the milk so that the ghee can be there, and the ghee can be poured into the sacrificial fire, and the Brahmanas can have all of the accoutrements for these wonderful various sacrifices, Rajasuya sacrifice, Ashvamedha sacrifice, so many different types of sacrifice. And in many cases, when they perform the puja perfectly well, the Supreme Personality of Godhead himself would come to the arena and speak to those who were present. And he would come sometimes in different forms. In this case, he comes as Hari, or the super soul who lives everywhere. So I thought that was pretty cool. So any other point about that anybody wants to make?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandot Pranam, all glories to Srila Prabhupada.
Hi, Hari Bol, Hare Krishna.
So I'm thinking about what Prabhu just said, and also we know that there are many examples like Parikshit Maharaj he was such an amazing king. He drove away Kali, yet he also did not get a good reception from a rishi, and then his son Shringi cursed him to die in 7 days. So we have so many such examples, like Jay and Vijay. They were actually thinking these four naked boys are disrespectful, so they didn't let them in, and they got cursed to be born as Rakshasas. But I'm thinking that, it is actually devotees who get the opportunity to be part of the Lord's pastimes. So this Gajendra, even though Indradyumna Maharaj became an elephant, he is part of this great ecstatic pastime of the Lord when he came and saved Gajendra, and forever he'll be etched in the Bhagavatam. So the question is it really a blessing to be in the pastime of the Lord, or is it a curse to be an elephant? So
Well, that's a good question. You know, some people, there's one verse, and you might remember this one better than I do, but there's one place in the Shastra that says, "Don't become a devotee of the Lord. Whatever you do, don't do it, because He's going to take away everything. He's going to take everything you've got." You know, and in many of our cases in our own life, we've seen that the Lord is one who takes away. Krishna means one who takes away. So if you're attached to material things, if you're attached to home, wealth, power, fame, beauty, sense gratification, you're going to be very frustrated. And because all that stuff is going to be taken away by Kala, which is the wheel of samsara, which is Krishna's energy, which ultimately takes away everything, because everything belongs to Krishna. So if you want to be qualified to receive everything in eternal life, with continuity, no birth, death, old age, disease, you've got to become a devotee of the Lord. You have to practice this Bhagavad Dharma. You have to understand that Krishna is only really attracted to you for the reciprocation of loving, devotion and service that we render together. It's a 360-degree kind of thing, we've dovetailed all of our desires in the pleasure of the Lord. The Lord becomes pleased, and His favorite pastime is benedicting you with everything you want. I mean, how much better does it get? Yeah, I see you right there, Prabhu. Go ahead, Ram Raghavan.
Yeah, I wanted to share something. And you know me, I have to read at least one purport when we meet like this.
Please do.
So, along those lines, Srila Prabhupada explains in two short purports, and I'd like to read those out loud for you. The first one is the very first purport from text 1. Srila Prabhupada says, "It is evident from this chapter that great sages like Devala Rishi, Narada Muni, and Agastya Muni will sometimes curse someone. The curse of such a personality, however, is in fact a benediction. Both the crocodile, who had been a Gandharva in his previous life, and Gajendra, who had been a king named Indradyumna, were cursed, but both of them benefited. Indradyumna, in his birth as an elephant, attained salvation and became a personal associate of the Lord in Vaikuntha, and the crocodile regained his status as a Gandharva. We find evidence in many places that the curse of a great saint or devotee is not a curse, but a benediction." And then a couple of verses later, pointing out what an advantage it is to take such a birth, Srila Prabhupada explains, "The story of how the Gandharva had become a crocodile will be described later. The curse by which the Gandharva took this position was actually a blessing, not a curse. One should not be displeased when a saintly person curses someone, for his curse indirectly is a blessing. The Gandharva had the mentality of an inhabitant of the celestial planetary system, and for him to become an associate of the Supreme Lord would have taken millions of long years. However, because he was cursed by Devala Rishi, he became a crocodile, and in only one life was fortunate enough to see the Supreme Personality of Godhead face to face and be promoted to the spiritual world to become one of the Lord's associates. Similarly, Gajendra was also delivered by the Supreme Personality of Godhead when he was freed from the curse of Agastya Muni. And in one of the other purports, Srila Prabhupada points out that similarly, the two trees, Kuvera and Nalu Kuvera, got the benediction of seeing Krishna face to face. But of course, for them, it took a long time also. But the advantage is that these personalities got the perfection just in one lifetime, instead of having to wait millions of years.
That's wonderful. Thank you for reading that to us. That's exactly the way it is. Even the chastisement of the spiritual master is sought after. You see, because that chastisement is for our improvement and our correction. It says in the Bhagavatam, in the last story that we just read with Prahlad, it says, whatever the Lord does, whenever he comes, it's for the improvement and the correction of everyone involved. It's for everyone's benefit. All the demons, the demigods, he's equal to all of them, and he liberates them all one way or the other. Either he kills you and liberates you, or he blesses you and liberates you. one way or the other, you're going to get blessed. And the devotees are the same way. That's why the devotees are called touchstones. We're just like Chintamani stone. You know, every desire can be fulfilled when we come into contact of a pure devotee of the Lord. Because the pure devotee of the Lord will take you home. It was just like you were saying a minute ago, just grab the coattails. Jai was saying, just grab the dhoti tail of Srila Prabhupada's dhoti and hold on, and he'll take us home. So the spiritual master is beloved by the Lord. And because he's beloved by the Lord, he can introduce you to the Lord. That's when we offer our food. We first say prayers, pranams to the spiritual master. Before we start a class, before we do anything, we offer our prayers to the spiritual master. Why? Because the spiritual master is beloved by the Lord, and we offer everything to him. He offers it to Krishna. Krishna accepts it from the hands of that wonderful pure devotee, and then we receive the prasadam. It's very wonderful that all this can go on. So, yeah, excellent point there. Anything else about that? Vamsi, that was a very good question. Thank you for enlivening us with that. Oh, one other story that I thought about. I think Agastya Muni cursed Chitraketu to have a son, but he blessed him at the same time, all right? Wasn't it Agastya? He did the same thing to him. He gave him a son, but the son died.
Yeah.
And so in the process of the son dying, Narada Muni came and then brought the son back to life. And the son explained the whole system to the father and the mother, and they became fully self-realized at that point. So these are all great blessings. That's why we see here that Indrajumna was very, very advanced. So when he was cursed, because he didn't get up, he was in a vow of silence. But because he didn't get up and he didn't welcome with the correct etiquette, he was cursed. But his curse was such a great blessing, because even though he took the body of a dumb, dull elephant in an environment, he says, of darkness that he sent him to, he still was able to remember the Lord at the end of his life. And even so much so that when the Lord came, even in his great pain and suffering, he was able to grab a lotus flower and offer his obeisances to the Lord. The Lord was very pleased. So both the crocodile, who is King Hoo-Hoo. Wow, this Veda stuff is so amazing.
It's so amazing. You know, I was listening to Remembering Srila Prabhupada by Yamuna Devi Dasi, she said, whatever Srila Prabhupada said, Krishna will take care of it. Krishna will take care of it. I mean, and I was talking with Kirtanand Maharaj back in 2006 or 7. I was there. I asked him one question. I said, Maharaj, tell me some experience of yours, about Srila Prabhupada. He said he could see Krishna in a rock. That was Srila Prabhupada. And I mean, it's so amazing, the faith. And here, Gajendra, everyone, left him. But he always was surrendered to Krishna. And that's what we learn from our beloved Srila Prabhupada. Hare Krishna.
Yeah. Prabhupada had the greatest challenge. Came to the Western world alone. No one believed in him. Even the lady of the Jaladuta, the steamship company, what's her name, Mararji? She didn't believe in him. She told him, "Don't go, you'll die there. It's too cold. It's not a place for you. You just stay home." And everybody was kind of encouraging, like, "Well, you're an old man, what can you do? You can't do anything." And so when he gets there, he sees this Boston Harbor. It's all black with soot, advertising for so much cinema, nonsense, sex life, cigarette, this, that, liquor. Prabhupada said, "How will I make these people understand? Lord, make me dance as you like." And so without really any real sponsorship, stepping over dead bodies in the Bowery, having all his books and his typewriter and all of his notes stolen from him, even when he came to his last $200, instead of getting on the steamship and going back to India, he rented Matchless Gifts with the apartment in the back. So he literally burned his ships. He had no more money. He had no more way out. And at that point, the devotees started coming. So yes, Krishna wants to see our utter sincerity. That's really what Krishna wants to see from us. And so these conditions that we're put into, which sometimes seem like distress, are actually the impetus for us to get out of the exact problem that we're in. They're actually a way out. And in this case, Indradyumna, having this previous experience, was able to accept the curse and not fight the curse. Same thing with Chitraketu. Chitraketu accepted the curse when he saw Shiva and Parvati, and he criticized them, and she cursed him. She said, "Oh, has God himself died, and now someone has placed you as master, that you can judge us?" Basically, is what she said to it. And so he accepted his curse gleefully. Because devotees don't care if they're in a heavenly place or a hellish place. They just want to be engaged in the service of the Lord. And the Lord knows better than we do what we need. He knows what we need really before we even request it. This is how great and how wonderful God is to us, and how our relationship with God is going on, that we're receiving all nourishment, all care from the Lord like that. Even when we have a negative situation, it's for our benefits, for our correction. So in this case too, the crocodile was King Huhu. And he was liberated also by having his head chopped off. So everybody's being liberated here. And I think that's very wonderful. And the Lord gives us other ways to be liberated too, right? So in text 17 through 24, he talks about, if you want to be free from all sinful reactions, then just rise early in the morning and just concentrate your mind on these stories, especially the story of Gajendra, especially the prayers of Gajendra. And he says that anybody who recites these prayers of Gajendra will go home to live eternally in the spiritual world. That's a guarantee. That's a promise in text 25 that he gives us just for rising early and reciting the prayers of Gajendra. But he also recommends that we concentrate our mind on his form, the lake that this incident took place, the mountain where it was at, which was Trikuta Mountain, I believe is how it's said. And he says your form, this lake, the mountain, the caves, the gardens, the cane plants, the bamboo plants, the celestial trees, the residential quarters of myself, Lord Brahma, and Lord Shiva. Yeah, Trikuta Mountain, that's it. And the mountain which is made of silver, gold, and iron, Trikuta Mountain, and the ocean of milk, and the white island, Sweta Dweep. He tells people to remember his mark of Shrivats, the Kastuba gem, his Vajayanti garland, his club, his Sudashan disc, Panchajanya conch shell, Garuda, all of this. Anybody who remembers these things is blessed and delivered. It says, my dear devotee, and to those who rise early from bed at the end of night and offer me the prayers offered by Gajendra, I give eternal residence in the spiritual world at the end of their lives. I don't know how much better it's going to get, guys. I mean, at the end of each one of these stories, you have an opportunity for Swarupya Mukti. You're being given an opportunity to achieve your original self-same form in the spiritual sky of Satchidananda Vigraha in your Swarup city. You're offered that as a result of hearing these various stories in the Srimad Bhagavatam. I mean, and this stuff's been here for thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of years, available to everyone. That's why I always say it surprises me we have a few people come to the class, but there should be billions of people coming to the class, right? Because if they knew their real self-interest, they would all want to hear these stories. They would all rise early. They would all repeat these stories. They would recite them early in the morning. Just like it says the same thing in the Ramayana. You should get up, you should read that story, you should remember that story, and you'll be with Ram at the end of this sojourn. Bhagavad Gita says the same thing. Krishna says, whatever you remember at the time of death, this you shall attain to without fail. So we can't be negligent of what we put in our mind. It's just like our bodies. You want to put in nice food, you want to wear nice clothing, you want to have a nice vehicle to ride in, you want a nice home to place your material body and bodies of your families and so forth and so on like that. But really, the only real, true, important thing for any and all of us to do is to feed our mind this grand information that's available to us as a result of this parampara without change. This information is as it is. It even warns here that don't change it. Just recite it as it is. Not necessary for you to make changes. And by doing so, then you will be delivered to the spiritual world at the end of your life. And in this case, Gajendra mounted the back of his carrier Garuda, and he took Gajendra with him. Sometimes you see that the Lord sends the Vishnu Dutas with a nice chariot, right? And you get up, you step up, actually you step on the head of death, right? Step on the head of death and climb onto that chariot. And as you're traveling through all the higher planetary systems, they're beating on doon-doobie drums and showering flowers as you go by. So that's pretty cool. That's pretty cool stuff. We can't, I mean, you know, this is so good. You know, I mean, you can't make it up. I mean, this is the best stuff there is. And it's funny how these stories are ingenious because they go on and on and on. So after this story, there's the story of Kurma, you know, and the grinding with the Mount Meru, where they what's it called when you do that? It's like churning. Oh, churning. Yeah, churning. Churning is the word I'm looking for. So they're churning the ocean of milk, and Shiva gets a chance to step up and show off by drinking all the poison. And the Lord becomes, it takes an incarnation as a female, and it chants all the Mohini Murti. It takes a chance to take and mesmerize all the demons and cheat them out of their share of the immortal elixir. So it goes on and on and on. And through those next stories, Krishna appears in different ways. At one point, he's the tortoise beneath the mountain. And another place, he's standing on top of the mountain, holding the mountain. So he's got two incarnations right there in the one story. So Krishna's got a lot of stuff going on. And he expands himself for these pleasure pastimes. And these are pastimes for pleasure. Prabhupada says, you want enjoyment. You're a pleasure seeker, just like Krishna. But your pleasure will fail as long as you separate your pleasure from Krishna. Just like your hand will fail if it's separated from your body. The hand can only work when it's connected to the body. And so then it feeds the mouth, the belly feeds, then the hand is nourished. So we have to reconnect. And we do that through a process called Bhakti Yoga. And that is the form of yoga that is prescribed as the topmost connection or form of yoga in connection with God. Krishna says so in Bhagavad Gita, and it says so in all of these chapters that we've been reading all along. So if you want to be guaranteed to go back home, back to Godhead, then we include these stories, and we will receive Svarupya Mukti. Any
Hare
other?
Krishna.
Yeah, Haribo.
Are we like Lord Shiva? We're churning the knowledge right now, and we're eating poison sometimes.
Maybe so. Maybe so. Yeah. If we're not hearing from the Sampradaya, then it's like milk touched by the lips of a serpent. And so
Yep.
it's not recommended to give milk to a snake. It makes them even more venomous. So we have to be very careful to select our association. That's a fact.
I guess that's why Prabhupada come to the West. Years ago, before Prabhupada came, this knowledge had come from India from previous swamis and stuff like that, like Paramahansa Yogananda. And in the West, Jesus was created out of that churning. And then he was in trouble. So Prabhupada come to release him. So he spread the knowledge to help the burden. Hare Krishna.
You could use that analogy for sure. There's no question. Yeah, Prabhupada came and churned us up, didn't he? He churned us up. Yeah, absolutely it did. So that's why we're here together tonight, is we're here to touch these wonderful stories about the Lord and his incarnations and his great devotees. Vamsi, you got a question?
Yeah, Hare Krishna Prabhuji. My question is, there are these 5 types of liberation. Like Sarupya is where you get the form similar, the 400 forms, like Lord Vishnu, like Lord Narayan. And then there is Samipya, Sarupya, Sastri, where you get some the opulence of the Lord, and then your close proximity with the Lord. But our Vaishnava acharyas say that a pure devotee does not want any of that. They just want to serve and serve the servant of the servant of the servant of the Lord. And now we see in this pastime that Gajendra got the Sarupya Mukti, where he is in Vaikuntha, but in the mode of awe and reverence, where Lord Narayan is there. So is that what we need to aspire for, or should we go even want to go to the Krishna Loka or Goloka Vrindavan, where we are just in the pastimes of Krishna?
Well, we follow our spiritual master, and so our spiritual master is going to Goloka Vrindavan. So we're not going to the Vaikuntha planets. We're wanting a more intimate, detailed relationship with the Lord. And so, you find the Vaikuntha planets are in basically Dasharas, Santaras, like that. When you go to Goloka Vrindavan, all of a sudden now there's friendship, and there is parental, and then there's Madhurya Ras. So we're following in the footsteps of our spiritual masters, and they are recommending these more ecstatic relationships with the Lord. And because they're giving it to us, it becomes a great gift. It's causeless to us. We don't deserve these relationships with the Lord. We're sinful rascals. We don't deserve any of this stuff. But somehow or another, the spiritual master is going to give it to us anyway. And that's why Krishna loves the spiritual master so much. He's willing to sacrifice his life to give us this information. Prabhupada did that. Jesus Christ did that. So many great, great souls have done this. And who is it? Vasudev died, who said, let the whole universe go back. I'll take everybody's sins. I'll suffer just for them. I'll take it all on my shoulders. Set them free. Don't make them suffer anymore. So this is the compassion of the devotee. And this is why the Lord doesn't even accept a bite of food that's not offered really to the mouth of the Brahmin. So this probably, when we offer our food, like I said, we offer everything to Srila Prabhupada, and Prabhupada is qualified then to offer it to Krishna on our behalf. So that's the idea, yeah. So, we don't want any. I was thinking about the story too, that when Lakshmi appeared in these next pastimes that you would be reading in these stories, she was looking for a suitable associate. And so she was going through the crowd. Here's all the demigods in the whole universe. Everybody's there. Everybody's there. And she starts talking about, well, you may have wealth, but you don't have this. Or maybe you have great knowledge, but you don't have power. Or maybe you have this, but you don't have that. So everybody she went through, all of the, including Brahma, everybody was not qualified until she got to Mukunda, to Krishna. And when she did, she went, there's everything in full. Everything in full. So that's the idea. We'll not be satisfied until we have everything in full, right? We don't want any partiality like that. We don't want a partial, like we're loving all these situations which will not produce the desired result. If you look at what people say now, love is such a cheap word. I love my car. Come on. You don't love your car. I mean, that's bizarre, So you got to love something. And so we're all here seeking that love, everybody. And the funny thing in our environment, even the politicians, they're telling people, no, if you simply worship me, if you give me your adherence, if you vote for me, if you're on my side, then I will give you everything you've ever wanted. I will provide that for you. But every single time, we're all disappointed, right? Because again, we're all fallible soldiers. They're supposed to be the greatest servants. That's why they take these positions in this cabinet and this president, because they're going to serve you. But they don't. They serve themselves. And once it's found out, the relationship is ended immediately. And it's a disastrous combination of karmas, really. I would say collision of karmas is what I say. So there's certainly no Swarupya Mukti there. Yeah, Ram Raghav, what you got?
Speaking of that, Hare Krishna, do you believe that we have a soul?
Say again?
Do you believe that we have a soul in our body?
Does who believe?
Is there a soul?
We are the soul.
Or is there something called soul?
Of course.
You think?
What's your question?
Actually, you just mentioned about these people who fight for position, and when they get into the position, they promise you so many things, and they can't fulfill because they only fulfill their own desire. So why is it these people would have gone to Krishna and they would have accumulated that kind of position? How come they didn't find a soul so that they can able to satisfy people like Jesus did?
Well, that's an excellent question, but everybody has free will. And so everybody can do whatever they want to. You have some minutes left in this day, and you can choose to do whatever you want to with those minutes. And so if you have a material desire that's very strong, then you will go after that with full vigor. Just like we see that some people have a desire to possess power, and they'll kill anybody to get it. And therefore they develop karmic reaction, and that karmic reaction follows them life after life. Just like aroma is carried in the wind from one body to the next body to the next body. We can't understand the intricacies of karma. That's very difficult. But Krishna is super soul. He's recording every activity, and he is providing the results of those desires. So if somebody has a desire that's separate from the Lord, they come to the material world, and they can try here for billions and trillions of lifetimes, millenniums, and 8,400,000 species of life. They can have families, they can have unlimited sex life, unlimited food stuff, whatever they like. they can try to achieve that here. And then ultimately, when they become frustrated, maybe they'll come to the Lord out of distress. Maybe. So in the
Wait,
Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says
8,400 species, is it? Or 8 million?
8,400,000 species.
Okay, so is that in one individual?
Yeah, well, that's individual species from aquatics all the way up to demi. Yeah.
Okay.
All varieties of species. 400,000 species of human life.
Okay.
Yeah. So
So
yeah,
how much an individual person, how much one person is carrying?
how much one person is carrying what?
Yeah. If that 8,400,000 species is in each individual or is general?
No, in other words, your soul can transmigrate between all these various species of life. You can be an aquatic,
Okay.
you can be an animal, you can be a plant life, you can be human life, you can be demigod life. But Brahma Bhuvanal Loka, every bit of it, all the way from the lowest to the highest, is a place of death and suffering and misery. And therefore, we shouldn't desire to have any of these material bodies made out of these separated elements called the Mahatattva, the Virata Rupa of the Lord: earth, water, fire, air, ether, mind, intelligence, ego, and then the soul. All of these are separated elements, and we want to live within the realization of the spirit soul. And we want to overcome the bodily identification, because that identification with the body simply leads to having another body. So you got to be reborn again in the material world. So if we dovetail all of our desires to the Lord, and we go to the Lord for everything, doesn't matter. Just like Gajendra went to the Lord, he didn't go to the demigods. He wasn't trying to go to a higher planetary system. It said in the Shastra here that we read, it said the demigods, they acknowledged that he didn't ask for the help of Brahma, Shiva. He didn't ask for any of the demigods, Indra. He went straight to Krishna, straight to the Lord. And when the Lord came, all of a sudden now this is big news. This is big news. This is eternal news. When the Lord shows up, that's when the party really starts. As a matter of fact, we call it the eternal festival in the spiritual sky. Krishna is involved in an eternal festival. As a matter of fact, that story of Jaya and Vijaya, when the four Kumaras came to the door Vamsi was talking about a minute ago, when they came to the door and they were insulted by Jaya and Vijaya. They had to go get Krishna. He was busy partying. He was dancing. There was a festival going on, so he had to break away from the party to come and deal with this particular situation. So we just want to go home. We want to go home. This is not a party here, guys. I'm gonna tell you. This is the last thing.
The way you describe the spiritual world just now, this festival spiritual world, I want you to make a song out of that scene.
Well, my friend Ekachakra Pran just wrote a nice song. And in that song, just in the studio last weekend, it's a song for the BBT, for the Book Trust. And it's a song called We Live to Give. That's the name of the song, We Live to Give. It's about book distribution primarily. But in that song, he says, one of the verses says, where every word is a song and every step is a dance. So that's in his song. And I thought that was very well chosen. Those words were well chosen. And you'll have to hear this. It'll be released before you know it.
Send it to me.
Well, it's not released yet, but when he gets it done, he'll publish it, I promise. So I'll make sure you get a copy of it.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, this is not a festival here, guys. This is a tragic comedy. That's the only way I know to put it. It's a tragic comedy. Because have you ever been in a spot where you're so frustrated? I mean, over just any little thing, just trying to get to work in the morning. These people are going up the interstate. Now there's a crash. Now there's a long wait. They're sitting there in complete anxiety, afraid they'll lose their job, their position. They're afraid they'll lose their income, lose their home. The wife will divorce. The children won't get fed. This is the whole mindset of these people. And they're sitting there in traffic and they're, vibrating, and getting angrier and angrier and angrier. And finally, they just get out and start stabbing each other or shooting each other. I mean, just turn on your news tonight. Don't turn on. I take that back. Don't turn on your news tonight. I can already tell you what the headlines is. You know what it is? Robbers steal, murderers kill. That's basically the headlines every night. Murderers kill.
I see a movie with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu when he had his disciple and he was singing and dancing, and the king abused one of his disciple, and he went to the king to fight to kill the king. But because of the disciple forgiveness towards the king, Mahaprabhu decided to change his mind, and he said this world is not good for him, so he leave the world and he go. But I was touched by how he leave. When he went to the temple, he wanted to go to the temple to meet Vishnu so that he can go to the spiritual world. And the pujari blocked him from going there. But the strength that he had, the power that he had, he pushed all of them and he walked in. Vishnu come appear, receive him in the form Narsim, and he left the world.
Interesting story.
And that was amazing. That was beautiful. On the other hand, I've seen Sodama. He was totally a beggar on the street, beaten. His skin was ripped apart with sore and all these things. But Krishna, when he went to the door of Krishna received him. And so the question of purity and the question of and soul, and so I don't know. Can you explain? You read Bhagavad Gita already?
I'm sorry?
Did you read the Bhagavad Gita?
You mean the whole Bhagavad Gita? Yes, many times.
Chapter 15, verse 1, where it talks about the banyan tree.
Right.
And the leaves were the Vedic hymn, and those who knows the Vedic hymn, and they are the knower of everything, knowledge. Can you explain what does that mean and what it applies in our life?
Well, sure. Krishna says, Bhagavad Gita, of all the Vedas, I'm to be known. So if you understand Krishna, then there's no more birth and death for you. Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, those who know the nature of my activities and my appearance, my birth in the world, they don't come back here again. They don't take another birth and death. Instead, they come home to the spiritual world. So the whole purpose of the Vedas, the whole purpose of knowledge, Krishna says, Raja Vidya Rajaguyam Pavitram Idamuttamam Prajakshavagam Dharmam Susukam Kartamavyayam. This is the king of education. This is the most secret of all secrets. This is the perfection of religion because it gives direct perception of the soul by personal realization. It is joyfully performed. So it's a wonderful, wonderful process that we have here. We have to cut down the banyan tree, the hard knots. We have to cut this labyrinth down with a sword of knowledge. And that knowledge is not the real purpose. The knowledge is to introduce us to Krishna. The real purpose is love of God, Bhagavad Dharma. It's described in every chapter we've read so far in the Srimad Bhagavatam. Krishna says that, abandon all varieties of religion. Simply surrender to me, I will protect you, do not fear. Now, Ram Raghava, is your hand up? Or did your hand stay? Is that just from
Yes, my hand was up.
Okay,
I was just going to add something along the lines of what Vangshi Prabhu was mentioning.
Okay.
So in the Bhagavad Gita, Srila Prabhupada explains that we all have a constitutional position in relationship to the Lord in one of the rasas.
Right.
And that perfection, when we realize that through the grace of the spiritual master. That's called Svarupa Siddhi, or realizing our constitutional position. So another aspect of what we were discussing was also that when we realize our constitutional position, that may be in a particular relationship with the Lord. And although also Srila Prabhupada in one place mentions, and I'll try to find this place and send it, but he also mentions that in the spiritual world, the devotee's position is dynamic. So one can change from one position to another, but we still have a constitutional position. And an incident from Lord Chaitanya's life, Lord Chaitanya's or Rupa Goswami's life, was Rupa Goswami and Sanatan Goswami had a younger brother who they convinced to worship Krishna, Radha Krishna. And they noticed that he was becoming morose. So this is in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. I'll try to find this also. And so when they talked to him, it's been a while since I read this incident, so I may not be exactly correct, but the gist is correct. So they asked him, what is wrong? Why are you morose? So he explained that he's tried to follow their example and worship Krishna, but he just cannot give up the worship of Ram, because that was his constitutional position. So he may have tried, but he couldn't do it. And Lord Chaitanya congratulated him for that. He said, you are a true devotee because you could not give up your constitutional position. So that also is something to be considered.
Wow, that's very, very cool. Well, Prabhupada said our constitutional position will be revealed to us when we come to the platform of Brahman realization to start, because Brahman realization means we're constantly Krishna conscious. We're Krishna conscious 24/7, even in our dreams. That's Brahman realization. And so in that position, Krishna can reveal himself to you. But if you're always distracted, it's like if we're having a conversation. Now, my kids, I'm not really giving them a hard way to go, but they have a phone in their hand, right? And they're looking at the phone and they're scrolling. I'm trying to have a conversation, but they're distracted. So we might have a profound subject matter we're trying to discuss, but they're completely distracted. So we lose continuity of the conversation. So in the same way, if we're distracted from our Krishna consciousness and we're unable to see, like you were saying, see Krishna even in a rock, right? Who said that a minute ago? Vamsi, did you say that? I can't remember who said that. But yeah, you see Krishna even in a rock. You see Krishna in every atom. And somebody said, well, who could count the glories of the Lord? Well, you'd have to count every single atom within all of these universes to understand even a portion of the qualities of the Lord. I just read that earlier today. That's how many qualities the Lord has and potencies that the Lord has. So we can't even imagine. But our goal is to, since we know that that's the best you could ever have, there's nothing better, the one without the second. This is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the most beautiful, wealthy, wise, famous, powerful person, humble, renounced person. This is what we want. We can't be satisfied until we make our connection with that person. And when we do, then everything else has found its perfection as well. So that's the idea. So very good point, though, that ultimately, it's like Arjuna. I was hearing that Arjuna is experiencing all of this battle of Kurukshetra in innumerable universes simultaneously. So the soul is so powerful that it has not only the form of God, the quality of God, but it has most of the potency, or many of the potencies, up to 70 some odd percent potencies of the Lord that the individual soul can have. And when we see that Vijay and Vijay come to the material world, they whipped everybody's butt here. Who could compete with a Vishnu Duda? No one. They come to the material world, Indra's thrown off the throne. Everybody's headed to the Milk Ocean to send a message to the Lord. You got to come and take care of this for us. We can't handle it. He's sitting on the throne of the King of Heaven. So yeah, those are the potencies that we have as well, but we just need to learn to use them in the service of the Lord, and then we will realize our own perfection as Swarup Siddhi, as you just said, Rama Raghava Prabhuji. Okay, so we're now at 8:07, guys. That you know what that means, don't you?
Prabhu, that means we need some kirtan.
We do. We need a lot of kirtan. You're right. But I got to end this class because I promised it would be 1 hour long. And we're now at 7 minutes over. So, all right. Thank you guys for coming tonight. That's all I've got. And anybody who needs to go, you can sign off. We'll notify you on which stories that we want to do next. And by the way, I'd be willing to let you guys go through the 8th canto and pull out the ones you think are the best. The whole thing is so good. We could do the whole thing. But what we're trying to do is find incarnations of God. So we have the tortoise incarnation coming up. We got, what is it, Ajita. We got the Lord coming in that form. We've got, there's several other things coming up too. And I'm trying, the Mohini incarnation. All of those things are there. Or we can go to Bali and Vaman. That's about a good 10 chapter story. So if we wanted to take that up next, we could. So you guys give me some advice on that if you'd like. I'd be happy to hear from you all. And we'll go from there. So any other comment or any other question?
One comment, Prabhu. Prabhu, so Gita Jayanti is coming, so maybe something related to that would be nice.
Well, no, we're going through the Srimad Bhagavatam to get the incarnations of God.
Yeah.
So that's, yeah. So what if you have a good suggestion? We'd love to hear that.
No, it's something like a story from the Krishna book, on Govardhan and and how it relates to Bhagavad Gita. So that would be nice.
Okay. Well, very nice. Thank you. All right, guys. So, all right. Well, thank you again. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. See you next Monday night, and look for the communication from our dear Sri Rangavati Prabhuji. She'll send out something to notify you. Okay.
All glories to her. Haribol.
Glories to Srila Prabhupada. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Happy Thanksgiving. Thank you.
Yeah, happy Thanksgiving to everybody. I should have thought about that. We got a lot to give thanks for. Haribol.
Hari-